The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 34, Part 15. June 28, 1937. What God does to the creature when she decides to live in His will. As she decides to live in it, her name is written in heaven. She remains confirmed in the divine good, love, and sanctity. And she is enlisted in the celestial militia. Example: my flight in the divine volition continues. I feel I am being carried in its arms, but with such love and tenderness as to feel confounded in seeing myself so loved, and surrounded everywhere by its maternal goodness. And my sweet Jesus, repeating his short little visit, with such love that I felt my heart explode, all goodness told me, my daughter, daughter of my will, if you knew what our contentment is in seeing the soul enter into our will, it can be said that she runs toward us, and we toward her, and as we meet, our will invests her with light, our love kisses her, our power takes her into its arms, our wisdom directs her, our sanctity invests her and impresses itself like a seal. Our beauty embellishes her. In sum, the whole of our divine being surrounds her, an attitude of giving her of our own. But do you know why? Because by her entering into our will in order to live, not of her will, but of ours, we receive what came out of us. We feel we are given back the purpose for which we created her, and therefore we make feast. There is no act more beautiful, no scene more enchanting, than the creature's entering into our will. And each time she enters, so do we renew her within our divine being, giving her new charisms of love. Therefore, one who lives in our will keeps us in feast. She feels the need to live in it in order to be cuddled by her Creator. And we feel the need to be cuddled by her and to give her new charisms of grace and of sanctity. Jesus remained silent, and I felt sunken inside the eternal volition, and marveled from hearing how much we are loved by God if we live in His will. 1,000 thoughts were crowding my mind, and my beloved Jesus, resuming his speech, told me, "My daughter, do not be marveled by what I told you. Rather, I will tell you even more surprising things. But how I wish that all would listen, so that all would decide to live in my will. Listen to how consoling and beautiful is what my love pushes me to tell you. My love is so great that I feel the need to tell you where we reach for one who lives in our will. Now, you must know that as the soul decides, repeatedly and firmly, to no longer live of her will, but of ours, her name is written in heaven with indelible characters of light, and she is enlisted in the celestial militia as heiress and daughter of the kingdom of the divine will. But this is not enough for our love. We confirm her in good, in a way that she will feel such horror toward the slightest sin that she will no longer be capable of falling into it. Not only this, but she will remain confirmed in the goods, in the love, in the sanctity, and so forth, of her Creator. She will be invested with the prerogative of the blessed. No longer will she be looked upon as an exiled one. And if she is on earth, she is there as an officiant of the celestial militia, not as an exile. She will have all goods at her disposal. She will be able to say, because His will is fully mine, what belongs to God is mine. Even more, she will feel as the possessor of her Creator. And since she no longer operates with her will, but with mine, all the barriers that prevented her from feeling her Creator have broken. Distances have disappeared. Dissimilarities between she and God no longer exist. She will feel so loved by He who created her as to feel her heart explode with love, to love the one who loves her. And to feel loved by God is the greatest joy, honor, and glory for the creature. My daughter, do not be marveled. These are our aims, the purpose for which we created the creature. To find in her our life, our will, reigning, our love, in order to be loved, and to love her. And if it were not so, the creation would be a work unworthy of us. I felt my heart burst with joy in hearing what my dear Jesus told me, and I said to myself, is this possible? Is all this great good possible? And my sweet Jesus added, Daughter, am I not free to do and to give what I want? It is enough for me to want it, and all is done. Besides, even in the low world, things happen that somehow resemble this. If a man gives his name to be enrolled in the government's army, this government, in order to be sure about the man, has him swear loyalty to it. This oath makes him remain bound to that army. He wears the uniform of the militia so as to be recognized by all as belonging to that army. And after he has shown ability and loyalty, he receives a pay for life. With this pay, which no one can take away from him, he will lack nothing. He can have servants who attend to him. He can live with all the comforts of life, even if in time he should retire. And what has this man given to the government? It is only the external part of his life, which has constituted for him the right to receive a pay during his life. On the other hand, the creature who, with firm decision, has given me her will, has given to me the most noble part, the most precious, which is her will. In it, she has given me the whole of her interior, as well as the exterior, and even her breath. And because of this, she has deserved to be enlisted in the divine army, so that all will recognize her as belonging to our militia. How can I ever let her lack anything? How not to love her? And if this could be, it would have been the greatest sorrow for your Jesus. It would have taken away from me the peace which I possess by nature. Not to love she who has given me everything, while rather with infinite love do I possess her. I hold her inside my heart, and I let her live my own life. Fiat. July 4th, 1937. How God wants to form many of his divine lives in each creature. How one who lives in the divine volition becomes the bearer of all and of everything to her Creator. I found myself all invested with the divine volition. Everywhere and in all places, I found it in active wanting to give me its life. Oh, how happy I felt in feeling its empire, that at any cost, with its loving stratagems, wanted to enclose its perennial life in me. I remained surprised, and my always lovable Jesus, visiting my poor and little soul, with his usual goodness and sweetness, told me, "My blessed daughter, if you knew how I delight, and how my love pours itself out in manifesting to you our celestial secrets, in what state of love our supreme being, our adorable will finds itself, in order to give me delight, you would press me to tell you in what state we find ourselves in the midst of creatures, and the great good that we can do to them. Now, you know how our immensity envelops everything. Our power and strength are such that we carry everything and every one as though in our arms, as if they were a little feather. All this is the nature of our being, thrice holy. So much so that if we wanted to become smaller, we could not. Our immensity and power flow in each fiber of the heart, in all the breaths, in the rapidity of the blood that flows in the veins, in the speed of each thought. We are actors and spectators, and aware of everything. But this is nothing. These are just the qualities of our Supreme Being. What is most astounding is that we want to form as many lives of ours in each creature. This is the operating of God, to have the virtue of being able to form as many divine lives for as many creatures as he has issued to the light of day. After all, the creature is ours, created by us. We live together, and because we love her, our love leads us with an irresistible strength and our unique power to form ourselves as life in her. And our creative art, not content with just creating the creatures, in the ardor of its love, wants to create itself in the created person. See, then, in what condition we find ourselves in the midst of the human family, in act of constantly forming lives of ours in them. But our creative art remains rejected, suffocated, unable to continue our divine creation. While we live together with them, and they live at our expense. They live because they live of us. Yet we have the great sorrow of not being able to form our life in them. While this would be our highest contentment, the greatest glory that they would give us, if they gave us the freedom to let us be life of each creature. But do you know where we are free to form this life of ours? In one who lives in our will. Our divine Fiat prepares for us the raw materials with which to form our life. It puts its power, its sanctity, and its love in attitude of operating, and calls us into the depth of the soul. And we, finding the adaptable and workable materials, form our divine life with unspeakable love. Not only do we form it, but we grow it, and to our greatest enjoyment and delight, we carry out our creative art around this celestial creature, and we begin the chain of prodigies. She, by possessing her Creator, and our will operating in her, becomes the bearer of all and of everything. If she thinks, she brings to us the thoughts of all, and makes herself substituter and repairer of all human intelligences. If she speaks, if she works, if she walks, she brings the words, the works, the steps of all. The very creation becomes her decorous cortege, and she makes herself bearer of the heavens, of the stars, of the sun, of the wind, of everything. She leaves nothing behind. She brings to us the homage, the glory of all our created things, even the homage of the sweet singing of the tiny little bird. Because she possesses the life of He who created her, all things form a crown around her. Even more, all of them want to be carried by she who possesses the speaking act, so that for each of them she may narrate the speaking love story through which they were created by their Creator. So one who possesses our will acquires our jealousy of love, which is such that we want everything for ourselves. And this with highest justice, because there is nothing we have not given, and therefore by justice we want everything. In the same way, taken by our same folly of love, she wants everything in order to give us everything. And she jealously wants to bring everything to us, so as to speak to us, for all and for each created thing, her little word of love. Therefore, one who lives in our will is never alone. First, she is with her Creator, with whom she is always in a contest of love, to see how they can love each other more. And since all things are around her, she becomes the bearer of everything to the one who loves her, who, being infinite love, wants to see in the creature all things converted into love for love of him. Fiat. July 12, 1937. How human reflections take away the place of the divine, and are the little pebbles that render the font of the soul turbid. how the divine will converts its love into her nature, and whatever it does at the moment of death, it anticipates in one who lives in it. I am in the arms of the divine volition, which more than vigilant sentry, not only wants to be life of each of my acts, but penetrating into each hiding place of my heart and of my mind, scolds me if anything enters into me which is not a birth from the Fiat. And my always lovable Jesus, visiting my little soul and assuming the attitude of teacher who wants to instruct his daughter in everything, told me, "Blessed daughter of my will, you must know that self-reflections, impressions, oppressions, melancholies, doubts, little fears, impede the divine reflections, the holy impressions, the rapid flight toward heaven, the joys of true good, the celestial peace. They are like many little pebbles cast into a lake, while a person is reflecting himself in those clear waters as in a mirror, and he sees his whole entire person beautiful and orderly as it is. And now what happens? While he is reflecting himself in those crystal clear waters, a little pebble is cast into that lake. The water ripples, becomes cloudy, and forms circles upon circles, such as to make the whole water turbid. And the poor person who was reflecting himself, what happened to him? As the circles were forming in the water, so were they taking away, one a foot, another an arm, another a hand, another the head, in such a way that the person appeared as though ripped apart by the ripples of those waters. What was the cause that made those waters lose their clearness in a way that his image no longer appears as whole, but in such a state as to arouse pity? What was it? A little pebble. Such is the soul created by God, more than crystal clear font, in which more than crystal clear font God was to reflect himself. Now, the reflections, the oppressions, the doubts, the fears, and so forth, are like many little pebbles cast into the depth of her soul. And as God reflects himself in her, she does not feel him as whole, but as though divided into many parts. Hence, the strength is divided, the divine joy, the sanctity, the unity of peace are divided. This will prevent her from knowing who God is, how much he loves her, and what he wants from her. And if she wants to reflect herself in God, these little pebbles will hinder her step, making her limp on the way, preventing her flight, in order to reflect herself in the one who created her. They appear as things of no importance. Yet, in this is formed the knowledge of God in the creature, the union, the sanctity. God reflecting himself in the creature, and she in God, if the soul is not disturbed by these little pebbles. These pebbles can be called the trifles of the soul. And because the firmness and substance of true love is missing, she is always turbid, and God cannot reflect himself in her in order to form his beautiful image. Therefore, be attentive and always seek my will. Jesus became silent, and I remained there, thinking of the great evil caused by self-reflections. And my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, only in my will can the soul reach the top of the highest sanctity and enclose within herself, as much as it is possible for a creature, a complete act that fills her so much as to leave no void in her, so much so that the good that she does converts into her own nature. If she loves in my fiat, the wave of love pours upon her whole being, invests her inmost fibers, and while pouring upon her, overwhelming her completely in love, it constitutes itself queen, and converts its love in the creature into her very nature, but so much that she will feel her breath, heartbeat, motion, step, and the whole of her being as incapable of doing nothing other than love. This wave of love rises up to heaven without ceasing to rain down on her, and storms her Creator, loving him always. Because when a good converts into one's nature, one feels the need to repeat the good received as an act that constitutes her life. If she adores, she will feel her nature changed into adoration. Hence, in everything will she feel profound adoration to her Creator burst out from within her. If she repairs, she will feel a surge to track down all the offenses in order to place her reparation. In sum, my will, with its creative strength, does not leave a single void, and knows how to convert into her nature everything that the creature does in it. See what difference between one who lives in my will and possesses it as operating life, and one who recognizes it as virtue, and maybe in the most sorrowful circumstances of life, but in everything else it is as if it did not exist for her. Now, I want to tell you another consoling surprise. When the creature decides, with unmovable firmness, to live in our volition, our satisfaction is so great that what we must do at the moment of death to confirm the creature in the good in which she dwells. Indeed, you must know that everything she has done in life, prayers, virtues, pains suffered, good works, serve to form our little divine life in her soul. Not a blessed enters into heaven if he does not possess this divine life according to the good he has done. In so far as they have loved me and fulfilled my will, so will they possess it, some smaller, some greater, because true happiness, true joys, must be possessed from within. So each of them will possess their God, inside and outside of themselves, giving them ever new joys. So much so, that if upon dying, souls are not filled up to the brim with love and will of mine, I confirm them, yes, but they do not enter into heaven. I send them to purgatory, to fill these voids of my love and of my will by dint of pains, of longing, of sighs. And when they have filled themselves completely, in such a way that they now appear as fully transformed into my love and into my will, then do they take flight toward heaven. Now, for one who no longer wants to do her will, but only mine, we do not want to wait until that moment. Our love leads us with an irresistible force to anticipate the confirmation of the good and the converting of our love and of our will into her own nature. Therefore, she will feel that my love and my will are hers. She will feel my life more than her own. But with what difference from those who are confirmed at the moment of death? These will no longer grow in good. Their merits are finite, while in the others my will shall grow always. The merits do not end. Rather, they will have divine merits. As they continue to love me and to live in my will, so will they know me more. And I love them more and increase their glory. I can say that I run in each of their acts, to give it my kiss, my love, to recognize it as my own, and give it the value, the merit, as if I myself had done it. Ah, you cannot comprehend what we feel toward one who lives in our will, how we love her and want to make her content in everything, because in her we find the purpose of creation realized, all the glory that all things should give us, centralized in her. And what's more, our fulfilled will is everything for us. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 34, Part 15. Fiat.